Hi everyone, welcome to this lesson video on the introduction to trigonometry. We're going to get started with some vocabulary to help us understand some of the words we're going to be using. So let's start with trigonometry. What is trigonometry? Trigonometry. We usually say trig because trigonometry is a little long. So we usually just say trig. But it is a branch of mathematics that studies the relationships between sides and angles of triangles. So we're still working with triangles. We have been working with triangles since last semester, and we're still looking at them. If you're tired of triangles, the only good news I can say is that after trig, we should be done with triangles. Well, no, we'll do area of triangles, but area and volume. But for the most part, we'll be done and we'll be moving on to circles. But yeah, it's studying the relationship between sides and angles of triangles. Hypotenuse, we all know and have seen the hypotenuse. Hopefully by now we know that it's always across what? The right angle. It's always across the right angle in a triangle, in a right triangle specifically. Okay. The word opposite. These are going to be the big words that we're going to be using today. Hypotenuse, opposite, and adjacent. So opposite means across your reference angle. Across your reference angle. So this is a big word too, reference angle. Adjacent means next to. So not across, but next to. And it actually touches the reference angle. Okay, there's our word again, reference angle. Theta is going to be the Greek letter that we use to represent the angles. And you'll see that symbol. It looks like this. It's like a circle or an O, and then it has a line like that. That's theta. So if you want to draw that, that's what theta is. But these are going to be the biggest ones that you do need to know. Hypotenuse, opposite, and adjacent. You are going to use those words for every single trig problem that we do. Okay, so it's good to learn those first, which is what we're doing today. So let's go over here. And that is the goal for today, to learn how to label the triangle, and how to use the scientific calculator. So let's start with labeling. Labeling the sides of a right triangle depends on which acute angle they use for the reference angle. So there's that word we saw in the front, reference angle. And it literally tells you it has to be an acute angle. The problem will always give you this reference angle, and you'll hear this word all the time, reference angle. Who's your reference angle? You'll just look at your problem and look at it. And then that's why we need the theta. The theta, that's the letter we use to represent that angle that they give us. Okay, so let's start. How are we going to label this triangle? So it says, circle the reference angle. So there's two triangles, so you can see the difference between both of them. So for the first one, since this is the beginning of learning, I kind of pointed at it, but you actually need to circle it. So get your pencil and circle the reference angle there, and then circle the reference angle on this one. So they're in different positions, but they're there, and we can see them. All right. One very important thing, your reference angle is never the right angle. You will never have a problem that says your reference angle is the right angle. We already did those types of problems. It was the special right triangles. Okay, so we will never have the reference angle be the right angle. Okay. And then it says label the hypotenuse. Okay, we all know across what is the hypotenuse? Across the 90. So if you want to draw your arrows, if you don't have to, you don't have to. But if the arrows help you, across the 90 is always the hypotenuse. If you want to abbreviate, that's fine. I'm just going to write it out. Hypotenuse. Okay. That's a U. Oops. There's my hypotenuse. Okay. So I did step 1, step 2. Now it says label the opposite and adjacent sides. So opposite, again, that vocabulary word we saw is across what? Across your reference angle right here. The opposite side is always across the reference angle. So let's go back. Go across your reference. So here's my reference for the first one. Go across. 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 That is your opposite side from your reference angle. Okay, now let's do this one. Here's our reference angle. Let's go across. That is your opposite side. Turn. Opposite. Okay. Now let's do adjacent. Adjacent. So we did opposite. Let's do adjacent side. Adjacent means next to the reference angle. Or it touches it. If I go to my reference angle, right next to it, it's touching it here, is your adjacent side. A-D-J-A-C-E-N-T. Adjacent. Okay, and then for this triangle, the only other side missing is adjacent. So right here next to the angle, I didn't go across, it's right next to it, is the adjacent side. Okay. Now, notice how these are different. Depending on where my reference angle was, changed my adjacent and my opposite sides. Do you see that? But which one stayed the same for both of these? Out of all three sides, who remained the same, in the same position? The hypotenuse. Okay, that is very important. Your hypotenuse will be your hypotenuse for every single triangle. It's never anything else. The stuff that will change, though, will be your adjacent side and your opposite side. So you just have to be careful. All right, let's do this one. Label the opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse in the triangles below. Okay. So I always start with the easiest one, hypotenuse. Across the 90, hypotenuse. And now I'm going to abbreviate, okay? All right, let's do... Oh, sorry, I skipped the first step. Oh, my God. Circle the reference angle. Who's my reference angle? 52. 52 degrees is my reference angle. Always circle it. Okay, and then you label your hypotenuse, and now we can go to the next step. Label the opposite and adjacent sides. Okay, so go to your reference angle and go across. Opposite of that side is your opposite side. So I'm just going to put OPP. Okay. Now my adjacent side is right next to the angle. So I already have this side labeled and I have the opposite side labeled. So next to it is the adjacent side. So I'm just going to put ADJ, adjacent. Okay. Now I want you to pause the video and try to do this one. Try to label the hypotenuse, the opposite, and the adjacent. Okay, press pause, and then check your work. All right, if you're checking your work, let's go over it. Circle the reference angle, 33. Label your hypotenuse. Across the 90 is always your hypotenuse. And now go to your reference angle and go across and do the opposite side of that angle. Across your reference angle, go across, that's your opposite side. And the one right next to it, right next to your reference, is your adjacent. So this is how your triangle should look, okay? Not too bad, very, very simple. We're just labeling today, okay? Now, we're going to talk about how to use the scientific calculator when we are doing these problems because you're going to use it every time. So you're going to go to Desmo Scientific, not graphing, scientific, and that's going to help you come up with this screen. This is the one I should have. Yeah, scientific. Okay, so it should look like this on your screen. All right. So we are going to be using this calculator every time we do some of these problems. So let's fill in our notes. It says, always make sure that your calculator is set to degree mode. Okay, it always needs to be in degree mode. Otherwise, your answers will be wrong. So where's the degree mode? Look over here where I have this right here. See how it's radians, degrees over here on the right? It needs to say degrees. If you don't see the DEG, your answers won't be right. Okay, and for trig, we are going to be using the sine, cosine, and tangent buttons. And they look like this. So if you look over here on my calculator, they're right here. Sine, cosine, tangent. Okay? Sine, cosine, tangent. All right, so let's practice. It says, use your calculator to find the following values. For the future, you can refer to these to make sure that your calculator is in degree mode. Okay, so we're going to type in sine of 30 degrees. So sine of 30. Close it. 0.5. 0.5. Okay. Now let's do the next one. Cosine, so erase that. Cosine of 57. So it's a decimal, but it's okay. We're going to round always to the thousands, which is 3 numbers after the decimal. So 0.5, what is that? 446. So since the number after the third 4 is a 6, I round up. So 0.545. Okay. And then tangent of 20. I'm just going to press another one. So tangent of 20 degrees is 0.3639. So that's going to go up to 4. Okay. All right. So this is how we use the calculator. We're going to be doing more of this tomorrow or whenever we learn the next part of trig. And that is it for that portion. So just remember to always have it in degree mode, always. All right, so you're going to practice this. I'm going to do the first one with you. It says, what is the length of the side opposite of angle A? Opposite of angle A. Here's angle A. Opposite. What side is opposite of that angle? 16. Okay, you try opposite angle B. Opposite angle B. So we're here now, angle B. What do you think? Across opposite 24. Good. Okay. What is the length of the side adjacent to angle A? So we're back, 24. We're back to angle A. But now I want to know who's adjacent to angle A. This is where it gets tricky. Adjacent means next to. But I have 2 sides next to angle A, 32 and 24. Who is the right side that I need to pick? Adjacent. So remember, this 32 is always your hypotenuse because it's across the 90, right? So this cannot be my adjacent side because it's the hypotenuse. Can't be anything other than that. So it's 24. Next to angle A is 24. Okay. What about angle B? Who's next to angle B? 16. And what is the length of the hypotenuse for this triangle? That's going to be the hypotenuse always. The length of that side is 32. Okay. This is it for today's notes. We are just practicing finding the opposite sides. So after this, you have a quizzes assigned to you. Just make sure you complete that and come in for tutorials if you need help. labeling the sides and figuring out what side is which. Thank you. Have a good day.